Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in to Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Tom's TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruptions over land and sea, where the wicked politicians they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. Is one set of people getting aisle money. Is one set of people doing the thievery. Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see, sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, with Jah as ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. Stop fooling the people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. They got Breakford, Bork and Mark Benchcop, David Hines and Kadaki Amsterdam, Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London, Normal Brown and Gavin Matthews. Big up Paslow, Port People Governor, Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson, Hampton Green and Winston Jordan. And yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Wyndham Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice.
And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show.
Conniving. Morning, never Morning, you can keep your conniving morning. When you've been knocked for a bum, in a bit there'll be morning. Now because your money done, you come with conniving morning. When you had your pocket full, in a bit there'll be morning. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me morning. Yes, morning, neighbor. Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, neighbor, morning. Morning, I don't want you conniving morning. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. This is all the money that me walk for. I said, money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. I don't want you conniving money. Oh, Joseph.
All right, so today we are here at Club Twilight up in Buxton, and we are here to talk about all that's going on up here. Trust me, if you are on the East Coast, you're in Buxton, you're in Tongue, you're looking for a place to get away to, this is the place. The Cutters, mwah. Listen, I'll be having some just now again. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, the ambience is beautiful, fully air conditioned. The decor is on point. The music's on point. Everything's on point. It's just me. I need some work. But everything else that belongs to this club here is on point. So if you want to find a nice little place where you can just drive out of town and have some drinks, have some food, you can call, you can order your stuff and just take it. You don't have to stay. Or if you want to stay here, that's what's up. And of course, they have special events for Valentine's. You can rent a hall. You can rent a hall, honey. You can rent a hall for weddings, for birthday parties, to have a bash. I hope he edits that out. But you know, whatever it is, this is definitely the place to be. So it's on Sideline Dam. You definitely want to ensure that you check this place out. But it's on your to-do list. All right, on your to-do list. This is definitely the place to check out, you know, a really cool, chill spot here in Buxton. I like this. This is Buxton needed this. We needed this. I needed this. You definitely needed too. Thank you.
Arriving in the UK from Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, or elsewhere. Start your journey with ease and comfort by choosing first-class travel service, one of UK's leading providers of premium airport transfers. Enjoy a smooth, stress-free arrival by booking your comfortable and reliable airport taxi before you arrive. With affordable rates and exceptional service, we cover all major UK airports, including Heathrow, Gatwick, Manchester, Birmingham, and many more. Wherever you land, we guarantee a seamless door-to-door experience to and from any UK airport. For your peace of mind, all our drivers are fully DBS checked and cleared, ensuring a safe and trustworthy service from the moment you arrive. Our friendly staff will meet and greet you in the airport arrival hall, assist with your luggage, and escort you to one of our luxurious vehicles. So wait no longer. We're ready to look after you from the moment you arrive in the UK. You can contact us via email info@firstclasstravelservice.co.uk, office phone +4 4195 2287 176, WhatsApp +4 479 136 0576 5 or +4 479 009 50171, or simply fill in our request, a quote form, at www.firstclasstravelservice.co.uk. Travel with confidence. Travel first class.
You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the East Rheinveld Market Meat Section. Call us on 609-7168. T&W Harris Butcher Shop for the best in fresh cut meats and lots more.
From Paparina's speaks of birth to correct his sons, where children play. urge each faithful heart to guard Guyana's lands, to foil the shock of rude invader who violate our earth, to cherish and defend forever the state that gave them birth. We'll forge a nation's mighty freedom our everlasting goal, courage and truth our aim, unyielding in our quest for peace, like ancient heroes brave, to strive and never cease, with strength beyond the slave. Guyana plant of glorious virtue, faith, prosperity, joining the universal search for worldwide community. Your people must surrender breathe, then you are quality, with one forever changing great nation's unity.
Marching towards the shining future, courage high, the past is gone. Brave for coming fear and mountain road is onwards gone. Through the storm clouds dark and blowing, through face lightning flash and flame, on the Republic of Guyana, glorify Guyana's name. Forward, youthful nation, grind with power the husband's might. May his strength forever gratitude strive, unceasingly for right.
Arriving in the UK from Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, or elsewhere. Start your journey with ease and comfort by choosing first-class travel service, one of UK's leading providers of premium airport transfers. Enjoy a smooth, stress-free arrival by booking your comfortable and reliable airport taxi before you arrive. With affordable rates and exceptional service, we cover all major UK airports, including Heathrow, Gatwick, Manchester, Birmingham, and many more. Wherever you land, we guarantee a seamless door-to-door experience to and from any UK airport. For your peace of mind, all our drivers are fully DBS checked and cleared, ensuring a safe and trustworthy service from the moment you arrive. Our friendly staff will meet and greet you in the airport arrival hall, assist with your luggage, and escort you to one of our luxurious vehicles. So wait no longer. We're ready to look after you from the moment you arrive in the UK. You can contact us via email info@firstclasstravelservice.co.uk, office phone +4 4195 2287 176, WhatsApp +4 479 136 0576 5 or +4 479 009 50171, or simply fill in our request, a quote form, at www.firstclasstravelservice.co.uk. Travel with confidence. Travel first class.
You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop, located in the East Ramveld Market Meat Section. Call us on 609-7168. T&W Harris Butcher Shop, for the best in fresh cut meats and lots more.
From Paparina's fields of corn to Corretti's sons, where children pledge each faithful heart to guard Guyana's lands, to foil the shock of rude invader who violate our earth, to cherish and defend forever the state that gave them birth. We forge a nation's mighty soul, construct a nation's frame. Freedom or everlasting goal, courage and truth our aim. All living in our quest for peace, like ancient heroes brave, to strive and never cease, with strength beyond the slave. Guyana climbed the glorious first to faith prosperity, joining the universal search for worldwide community. Your people will surrender greed, their new or polity, with one forever changing great nation's unity.
Marching towards the shining future, courage high, the past is gone. Brave for coming fear and counting mountain glory, sun and stone. Through the storm goes dark and glory, through faith like a flash and flame. One republic of Guyana, glorify Guyana's name. Forward, forward, youthful nation, rang with Orleans and might. May his strength forever gratitude strive, and seizing me for right. From Guyana's face consolate, to white surface takes the train. Build thy people, dear Guyana, strong, united, loyal, free. My Guyana, my Guyana, my Guyana. My Guyana, Eldorado, best of all the world away. In my heart wherever I wander, memory enshrineth thee. All my hopes and aspirations, all my longings, only tie. Everlasting bonds around us, as the fleeting years roll by. My Guyana, Eldorado, my Guyana, times unfolding, and for my destiny, the redeeming, lasting splendor of our years and lost glory. And the dawning of thy glory o'er
Leaping out upon the deep, the great Atlantic flowed into a fury. For a sleep at morn, at noon, or entering the crimson sunset's glow. I love thee, I love thee, I love
Oh, beautiful Guyana, my lovely native land. Oh, I love thee, I love thee, I love thee. I love the people more. I love the Guyanese people, and I love my African brothers and sisters more. You know, I love my Buxton people more than y'all. So y'all keep in mind, there's love, and there are different levels of love. So y'all understand that there are different levels of love. They got agape love, and they got kind of other love. Love got a whole variation. Right, so when people tell you they love you, step back and ask yourself, is what kind of love? Observe their actions and come to your own conclusions by this is no ordinary love, or this is a special kind of love, or this is pretense, you know. Friend of me that said, so be careful of the kind of love people tell you they love you, and then you just relax and sit back and feel comfortable. Priya said the government loves Buxtonians. I can't argue with Priya. Like I said, I got different kinds of love. Priya said the government loves Buxtonian, and they are showing love for Buxtonians by agreeing to construct a new market for Buxtonians and so on and so forth. Well, I don't know if it's love, or I know it is duty. I don't know that it's love. I know that it's duty. It is the duty of the government, local or central. Local or central, to ensure that facilities such as markets and garbage collection and so on are properly functioning in the communities. So yes, Priya, I see it as love. I see it as duty. Yeah, I gotta work the one out. And you see the chairman, the NDC chairman, Mr. Martins, and the vice chairman, David Jones. I got to cuss him for put on you. When I don't cuss you, are you gonna understand to pay attention to history and to record it accordingly? It's Thursday morning, it's Mr. Jordan's morning, but y'all allow me a couple minutes to rant this thing up on my nerve. Yeah? This thing got me nerve. Because when you allow people to write your history for you, you're putting yourself and your next generation in some serious problems. In marriage, they say your tongue tie a knot that your teeth can't loose. And this is what some of y'all doing with your mouth. Sometimes when I listen to our people in local government, or even central government, but this time I'm talking local government, when I listen to our people in local government, I hear an undercurrent that says, we are walking a thin line. We don't want to offend the government, despite being representatives of the opposition. We don't want to offend the government because we are hoping that if the tables were to turn, and in the instance of local government, y'all in hear me, man? Who's the person? Tell me if anybody else is getting problem with song, or it's just DMAC. DMAC, you just throw me off. I doubt whether anybody else is getting song problem. You know, y'all, when y'all come, y'all didn't get song, and you see nobody else complain, must check your device. DMAC, you just throw me off. I doubt whether anybody else is getting song problem. Right, you see what I'm talking about? But anyhow, I get this on the current that our representatives are saying we don't want to offend the current government because the possibility is local government election season. We might lose local government, or we could lose local government. But even if we lose local government, I still want to have access. I still want to have a foot in. This is how some of y'all behaving. And I will always call it for what I see it. I don't mean to be offensive to anybody, but I consider myself a political analyst, an activist, and all of that. And I call things how I see them. I call things how I see them. I tell you, I black if it's black. And so when you hear our representatives talk yesterday at this turning ceremony, you want to know if it's the same people representing you, or if it's the same people who've been representing you over the years. David Jones! How long have you been chairman of Buxton Falls NDC? And how many years have you tried to get the PPP to first and foremost build a new NDC office? And how long have you tried as chairman of the NDC to get the PPP to build a new Buxton market? As a matter of fact, you start with renovation. These are the things that you need to talk about when you go to these events. Don't praise no Minister Manichan and don't praise no PPP government for coming to the rescue. You're rescuing we. Of Buxton people and the economy. You're rescuing me. You're doing your duty. And I'm tired of these representatives who claim to represent us and they allow people to just force this nonsense narrative down their throat. Oh, the market is important and we're thankful to the minister for rescuing. Rescue who? I look like, are they bad? Yeah, best launch is stand up as leaders. Stand up as leaders and do what's the right thing. Mr. Martins, I'm very angry with you this morning. You misrepresented Buxton. Buxton market was not closed in 1979 or at any time. The market became dilapidated, but it functioned. Even during the crime spree, Buxton market had vibrant vendors, or I can call some of them. Daphne Roseman. Dennis Booker would know what I'm talking about. Daphne Roseman was out there. My sister Maureen Amsterdam was out there. We had a good laugh because of morning the searching stands and they also let to kick in the stand door for Marine stand to see if guns inside in there. And gangsters them kicking away at the door and budging because they didn't understand that some doors open outward. And that door used to open outward. Shannon and Barma used to sell puri and fish cake and so on out there as breakfast. Jean Campbell was right in front of the market door. In fact, Jean Campbell was standing in front of the market door or at the side of the market door and she occupied the guard hut. Jacqueline Sparman had stand out there. I can go on and on and on, and I think I'm going to continue this cuss out tomorrow morning for set the record straight. The PPP was responsible for a whole lot of people moving from the Buxton market or closing their businesses at the Buxton market because they facilitated the crime spree in Buxton in the early 2000s. And we're going to talk more about that tomorrow. Because as a result of them opening the jail gate for the 5 to come out, I'm going to tell you why they come out too. And they come in and camp in Buxton and the craziness start. Suppliers stop coming to Buxton. Banks DIH trucks stop coming. DDL trucks stop coming. This body stop coming. That body stop coming. And so some the business people weren't getting their supplies. And there's a lot of them closed shop. Even as we talk about Buxton market dilapidated and they got several businesses operating in the vicinity of the Buxton market that used to be in the Buxton market. Y'all stop this nonsense. Stop bowing down and bend over. Speak truth to power. Imagine, and I understand sometimes when I saw the invitation circulating for the Saturnian ceremony, somebody sent it to me the night before. I said, look at these people. Imagine them at the NDC who call themselves representatives. They would always call me Mr. Amsterdam when they get problems. Call you for this, call you for that. They got Saturnian ceremony. None of them got the decency to call and say, Mr. Amsterdam, we know you're up on we side. We just call you for representation and for advice and so we got this Saturnian ceremony. Calling shame. When you look at the program, it's a set of so-called big shot run the mouth, the ranking mouth, and not a single space for a resident or a so-called beneficiary of this project to say whether they approve of it, whether they disapprove of it, or what they think could be changed, or what they think could be improved.
Where the democracy? Ah, listen, I could go on and on and on, but I think this program, Mr. Jordan, gonna be on next week, I think. So let me allow the man to have his time. But it's best addressed when it's fresh. So I wanted to at least put out this so you understand that this boxing man is stupid. This boxing man has pay attention to history. And for all of you who want run a him out, I best ensure you get the history right because I want to challenge you in public every time. Mr. Jordan, good morning.
Hi, good morning, man. I didn't see the four square, but you're boxing like hell there, buddy. Muhammad
Man,
Ali
they're
would have been,
overdoing the
Joe
thing,
Frazier
man.
would have been proud. Eh?
They're overdoing it.
Oh my goodness, yes. It's good. It's good that you roused them this morning. But you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. It's a different society. It's a different society. I mean, you compare what you're calling opposition. You know, I said it last week, and I see now a lot of people are saying it's the weakest opposition come across, and it will get weaker. And many people who are in the opposition or who were lucky to get themselves elected to councils and whatnot, eventually they are going to show their true colors. You know, it's all about transaction. You know, and the more people think that the future is bleak in terms of their government getting back into power, it's the less they are going to feel that they must throw out the belly, all right, on behalf of the struggle. But you're right. So you're going to get more. And look, I'm very happy that eventually that Buxton is getting a market, you know, belatedly, it seems, because everybody else got one, you know. Monrepo got markets. And I keep reminding people that Monrepo got a brand new market way back when we were in structural adjustment hell. A market was built for them, and they never occupied it, right? They never occupied it. In fact, as you pass the public road, you used to see cows and sheep and so on resting in the place. And the place was full of, they were using it for night shelter. You know, the vagrants use it for night shelter and all kinds of story. Eventually, they broke it down and they built this fancy place where they built here, and then they built another fancy place. There's markets at Lusitnan. There are markets all over Perica, all over the place. And so belatedly, they took shame out of their eyes, and now they're building one for Buxton. I'm happy. I'm happy for Buxton. And I'm hoping that you could get a backward linkage that we had put in place with that project so that the farmers can get access to the backlands and plant and so on and produce produce to be sold in the Buxton market rather than vendors going to all over the place and then bringing back stuff to Buxton. A proud place of agriculture and so on, where train used to stop and you will rest and so on, and you will cut your Buxton spice mangoes and so on. I was on a train, such a train, right? So you're right to rant and rave, man. Sometimes you got to vent your spleen and let these people understand that it's not business as usual. Anyway, man, thankful Thursday. It's good that we are in the land of the living. Right, the sun is out. We had a bit of a rain this morning, not much, but enough to just cool down the place and keep it with that fresh smell. For those who didn't make it, well, may they continue to rest in peace. Let me shout out a happy belated birthday to His Excellency, former president, the 8th president of Guyana. I think he was the 8th president of Guyana. Brigadier retired David Granger, who celebrated his 81st birthday yesterday. And I sent him personal greetings, and he was able to respond this morning, and he let me know that he enjoyed his birthday in Cuba. undergoing treatment for his publicly known cancer. So that's how we celebrated his birthday. But we are happy that he is with us and that he will continue to be with us until the good Lord calls him home. Like all of us have to be sometime, but I'm happy that he enjoyed. And in a place where, notwithstanding all that has been thrown to them, the Cuban people continue to show a remarkable resilience against incredible odds, and that President Granger, ex-President Granger, can still trust the medical system in Cuba to be going there to continue his treatments. At the same time, I want to send out my prayers and so forth to John Cush, my good friend John Cush, who I learned has had an infraction and is now under medical supervision at a private hospital. John, of course, is the husband of my and well-known lawyer, Don Cush. We send out our prayers for a speedy recovery and that you will be back to your normal and jovial self. Has anybody driven, walked, or ridden in Cemetery Road recently? This is a road with all kinds of problems, including zombie problems. Eventually it was finished, but the construction, which apparently was done by one of those fly-by-night contractors, and had huge problems, including extensive delays. The road is breaking up. Huge holes have appeared, like in everything else, like in everything else. You know, like this Heroes Highway, the Ogle bypass, the highway that recently built on the West Demerara. But these holes are huge. And what is amazing is that I'm sure people from the Ministry of Public Works, because that road is used extensively, are passing there every day and watching those holes getting bigger and bigger on a carriageway that is so important. So important. And yet, what happened to stitch in time saves 9? Everybody is now trying to drive on the little space that is left. And of course, traffic got to crawl, especially in rush hour, in a critical link like there because of the potholes that appear in Cemetery Road. And I'm sure in other places. Right? Well, don't even bother with the street. That has been a disaster for years now. And then, of course, major carriageways experience what they call blackout. All the lights are out on several major carriageways at a time when the lights should be on. Now, I don't know whether they're solar lights or whether they're lights that operating with GPL's power or what. But you can see when those in the night, so people have to be putting up their high beam to be driving. Rows upon rows upon rows of lights are out. You telling me these aren't things that the government are seeing? No, they're not seeing. They're busy going on to the next project for which a ribbon can be cut. And I talked about this. They feel that cutting ribbons and putting new projects and so on are the only things uppermost in the minds of the citizens. But maintenance, which has been the bugbear of many countries, including Guyana, maintenance and timely maintenance It's extremely important. You can't just build this one here and move on to the next one without thinking that you have to do annual maintenance, because annual maintenance saves a project from becoming a new project because of lack of maintenance. So I thought I would bring this to the attention, because we know they listen. We know they listen. But it is time careful attention be paid to maintenance. And of course, with these biscuit type roads that are being built that on by contractors who are more contractors than contractors, maintenance is going to be major maintenance is going to be expected sooner than later. An average road, when you a properly built road, you should be enjoying 2 to 3 years of almost trouble-free driving and so on. You know, the odd maintenance here and there, clearing of the shoulders, you know, and making certain water run off and all these kind of things. But these roads that they are building, from the time a couple of cars go on it, within the space of 6 months, you see the patching already. And this doesn't seem to be something that is attracting the attention of the government. And that is unfortunately what we find ourselves in this country. An inability to change governments based on policies, based on programs, and so forth. In Guyana, I don't think we have ever had that ability in Guyana. Too many of our elections are more about racial censuses, a racial count, than progress achieved given the financial and other resources that we have. Last week we ended by discussing the supplementary budgets. Oh, before I go there, again, I want to recognize the efforts of Kidaki and Annette in keeping in the news the president's benefits bill. You know, we have come a long way from since I raised it here. There have been some movement in terms of it being broadcast, and a number of other people are now mentioning it, are now including it in their analysis and on their programs and so on. Right? I saw Melly Mel mentioning it, and I think Rickford Bork I saw mention. So it's out there also. So it's gathering, but we need it to gather more because we know this bill is going to be coming up before August the 10th. And that's a couple of days from now. In fact, today being the 16th, 15, maximum 3 weeks from now, maximum 3 weeks. So that bill is going to be coming up. And so we needed to gather more mass. We need more people to gather, to be talking about it and to be showing the activism of it. And again, in all of this, I must express my grave disappointment in this so-called opposition. I don't know what is the reticence about the opposition when it comes to this bill. I don't know what, because they can't claim not to know. Certainly the ones in Parliament can't claim not to know the implications of this bill. The ones out of Parliament like the AFC and the ALP and the ANUG and all these alphabet soup, they can't claim not to know. And if, as again I said, if we can't rally around a bill like the ex-president's bill to get it defeated in the eyes of because if it's defeated in the public, it will be defeated in parliament. Notwithstanding our racial census voting and so on in this country, if our activism in the public is as such as to put enough pressure on the government to banish the bill or to let the bill die in parliament if they don't want to withdraw it, that is where it's going to happen. There's recent precedent for this. There is recent precedent for this with the tabling of the I think it's the tabling of the bill to do with the sexual registry. Enough public pressure by a wide variety of people caused the government to say that the bill will go to select committee. And if the opposition in and out of parliament, together with the civil society, whatever they call in civil society, together with that part of the private sector that doesn't feel beholden to the government, if there can be a coming together of all those people, then what issue are we going to rally around? What issue that is going to cause us to rally around this country? And there you have a real problem. Do you recall that even when we got issues to do with Venezuela and our sovereign territory, that you don't see the mass outpouring of patriotism in this country like you will see in many other countries when you're talking about sovereignty? When you speak about America, you see everybody in America, USA, USA, USA. When you talk about the Limeys and the British and the French and all these people, when they're passionate about something, do you see that in Guyana? Even around an issue like our sovereignty. Look at the tepid reaction to Suriname and their treatment of Guyana. Whether it's the ousting of the CGX rig, whether it's the harassment of fishermen in the Quarantine River, whether it's the unilateral withdrawal from a bilateral agreement in relation to the establishment of the quarantine, a bridge across the Quarantine River, whether it's the free-for-all allowance of Suriname's businesses to come and establish themselves in Guyana, whether it's the private sector attending a conference in Suriname in which there's a deformed map of Guyana, and all they will whippingly do is to say we express not even outrage, but they will carry on smartly with the conference. There seems to be no issue in this country where we can expect a national outpouring of outrage, love, or some sort of thing. But aren't we going down the wrong road? Aren't we? I don't want to juxtapose the two, but a couple of days ago, I saw there was a massive attendance of, I think it was a gospel rally or something. Massive. And I said to myself, if only those people who attended that show will also, not one against the other, will use that same togetherness and bring it to other issues that affect this country and how fast we will get success were they to do so. But I was never sanguine that that will happen, because when they left there, they go back into their silos. And the government knows this and understands this. And so they are not pressured to do what is right and to do that in a timely manner. They do whatever they want and they do it in their own sweet time. That is why Farmgate hasn't got the outpouring of outrage that it should have got. Yes, there are outrage, but it seems that the outrage is coming from the usual suspects. And those who are pushing back against it seems to be, in this tug of war, getting the upper hand. And before you know it, Farmgate will be another of those issues that have come, infected the airwaves, and then have gone. And you got many of them. I'm sure you can itemize a whole set of them that appeared, right? Caused a lot of fluttering and so forth, and then died. And that is what they know this. They know this. They know this. So they don't respond in the manner in a normal society where you could expect the institutions will work. You will expect in a normal society a reaction by several of institutions. Read today's Kiskadi newspapers where they said they visited several government institutions in reaction to the Farmgate. None. They weren't able to see a single individual who was willing to give what should be public information. How do you move on from that? How does Guyana grow out of that? The reality is we're growing into something which we thought we left behind in this country, but which has reared its head like a hydra. When you thought you cut it off and it grows back, it is growing back differently, maybe more powerful and everything else. And that is what you have. That is what you have in Guyana. This opposition cannot tell me that in the context of how they're operating, that they really can expect to win an election a couple of years from now, to win an election, whether it's local government or general, a couple of years from now. And I'm saying this because the followers who followed you in 2011, in 2015, in 2020, note carefully what is happening. 2025, note carefully what is happening. On the strength of what you are doing today, what do you think is going to happen in 2030? Or even before then when they have local government elections? I was privy to seeing a recent video by Azuddin Mohammed, the leader of the opposition, where he is projecting himself as the best opposition leader. The opposition has never seen advocacy like this before, something to that effect, what he was saying. He was projecting himself as the best opposition leader. Can you consider who were opposition leaders in this country? Giants like Forbes Burnham, Thierry Jagon, Desmond Height, giants like those. He was better than those people. His advocacy, whatever that be, because I have never seen him I've never seen him in a march. I've never seen him in a picket line. I've never seen him in a press conference. But yet he, speaking from a teleprompter, that I think it was, could claim to be the best opposition leader. Even when I call second tier opposition leaders, because for me, the Jagon and Burnham and Height were the giants. Then you had second tier opposition leaders like Corbyn, Jagdeo, Harmon, Norton. Even on their worst day, I don't think Hazardin could even compare. And that in any case, he has less than 7 months as opposition leader, in which he has done nothing much than other than putting out two or three or couple videos that has done nothing to advance the causes of the opposition. It has created a bit of a flurry and so on, but it has done nothing to change course, to adjust things, to improve things, or any such thing. But like we said, everybody is entitled to their own prominence or their own, they're entitled to blow their own trumpet. I don't know that the masses that they're supposed to represent are enamored and choose about such behavior, because like I said, it's not moving the needle, it's not in resulting in an improvement in the welfare, it's not adjusting the status, it is just likes. It's getting more likes and more shares, but nothing else. Nothing else. All right, so last week, as I said, we were on to supplementary budget because we know for a fact that even if they were to shelve the reading of the President's Benefit Bill until after Parliament convenes in October, they will definitely not shelve the supplementary bill. So this bill definitely will be looked at before Parliament goes into recess on August the 10th. And I explained to you last week the types of supplementary bills that you may have, right? The monies taken from the contingency fund without Parliament's approval, right? In accordance with the Constitution, and monies approved by Parliament after budget had been passed. That was called supplementary. You got those are the two kinds of supplementary bills that we have, and then we have shown where the government over the last 6 years have abused the process of supplementary bill, which in essence implies a deformed budgeting process. We started out, so I'll go back again, even though I did 3 of them, I'll go back again today to show you how many bills by year and the amount and the percent of the budget these bills, to show not only is the budgeting deformed, but also because Parliament in this country is not as robust as parliaments in other parts of the CARICOM. I'm not even going further than that. CARICOM. Have you ever seen a supplementary bill debated, say, in Trinidad? I think it should still be on their website. Go and see the level of debate that goes into supplementary bills. Go and see the level of details. Go and see the level of questioning, backup documents that are presented in that parliament. So that notwithstanding that the government has a majority, it's not a done deal. Here, it's a done deal. It's perfunctorily presented to the parliament in accordance with the Fiscal Management Accountability Act, in accordance with the Constitution of the country. They go through a sterile, what they call debate or questioning, in which you are allocated X number of time, and which the speaker tells you can't ask this, you can't ask that, you can't do this, and you can't do that. So can you imagine the government is bringing a supplementary bill and the speaker is telling you you can't ask a question that says, well, how much money you have spent out of the existing budget? How much money did you spend last year? What was the accumulated amount? He is telling you can't ask that. So what on earth can you ask? What is the contribution you're making? What it is that you are finding out? and the government sails through these supplements. That is why they don't have to be as rigorous as they should be when preparing the budget, because they know they can come back for supplementary any and every time with the least amount of resistance. And this has happened by the proliferation of these papers over the last 6 years. In 2020, when we had COVID and we didn't have a parliament for most of that year because of the elections and the country tongues after the elections, a budget was eventually prepared by the PPP, presented in September, approved on September 26, 2020. That budget was for $329.5 billion. $329.5 billion. And yet, right? So 3 months, October, November, December. 3 months, you had 2 supplementary papers being brought to the parliament, notwithstanding the fact that the budget was approved in September 26, 2020, and that the budget that was approved for $329.5 billion included roughly $187 billion that was spent by the coalition government already. Yet still, the government came with 2 supplementary papers. The 4th supplementary paper was a contingency fund advance, where they took money without Parliament's approval, which is sanctioned under the Constitution. And that was for $792.3 million. Then they brought another paper that year. And as I recall, it was sometime in December that they bought that paper in that year for $17.4 billion. $17.4 billion that year. For collectively $18.2 billion, or 5.5% of the budget. 3 months. 2021, the budget was for $383.1 billion. It was approved March the 4th, 2021. In that year, 4 supplementary papers were brought, notwithstanding the fact that the budget was approved in March. The first supplementary paper was for a contingency fund for $1.9 billion, followed by another supplementary paper for $21.4 billion. Then another supplementary paper, another contingency fund advance, $5.1 billion. And another supplementary paper for $21.5 billion. A total of $49.9 billion in that year, or 13% of the budget. So while the difference in budgets between 2020 and 2021 was roughly $54 billion. The supplementary paper, as a percent of budget, was more than twice or nearly 3 times that of 2020. In other words, then 2020 was 5.5% of the budget. 2021, it was 13% of the budget. 2022, the budget was for $552.9 billion. That was approved February 10th, 2022. Again, that year, you had four supplementary papers. 4 supplementary papers. First one was a supplementary paper for $44.8 billion. For $44.8 billion. Then there was a contingency fund advance paper for $2.9 billion. Then another paper for $44.4 billion. And then finally a contingency fund paper for $3.8 billion. for a total of $95.9 billion, representing 17.3% of the budget. 17.3% of the budget. 2023, the budget was $781.9 billion that was approved on February 2nd, 2023. The first supplementary paper was for $61 billion. Then there was another supplementary paper for $31.3 billion. And then a third supplementary paper that year for $25.9 billion, for a total of $118.2 billion, or 15.1% of the budget. 15.1% of the budget in supplementary papers. 2024, the budget was for $1.146 trillion. That was the first year of our trillion-dollar budgets. It was approved on February 2nd, 2024. In that year, there were two supplementary papers. There was a contingency fund advance paper for $8.6 billion. And then there was a supplementary paper for $32.2 billion, for a total of $40.8 billion, or 3.6% of the budget. 2025, the budget was $1.38 trillion. It was approved on February 5th, 2025. In that year, you had two supplementary papers. The first one was for $18.8 billion. It was a contingency fund paper. And the second paper was for $57.5 billion. $57.5 billion, for a total of $76.3 billion, or 5.5% of the budget. And to date, in 2026, for $1.558 trillion that was approved on Valentine's Day, February 14, 2026. So far, we have had one supplementary paper, the one that we know about today, for $54.9 billion. And so far, that represents 3.5% of the budget. So these supplementary papers show a pattern of mismanagement of the resources of the country. The last supplementary paper, the one for $54.9 billion. You see, I will show you why we say this is a clear mismanagement of the resources of the country. Because while it is accepted that budgeting is based on your best estimate of the climate during the year, still, for budgets to be this way off consistently is to suggest that there is no proper care and attention paid to the budget. And even when you're asking for supplementary, these are the capuch or the more categories that they ask about. You will see people coming for supplementary to pay security guards, or they run out of money to pay security guards, or they run out of money to pay for something like that. How do you run out of money of that magnitude? And the magnitude is sometimes more than the budgeted amount, as you will see in this paper. In this paper. As we were reminded by former Auditor General Anand Gulsaran in Kiskidi Watch, June 14, 2026. Mr. Gulsaran reminded us that, quote, Section 24 of the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act states that the Minister of Finance must provide reasons for the proposed variations, as well as a supplementary document describing the impact of such variations on the financial plan in the budget. That is what the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act says. Now, I will say that this particular part of the Act has always been observed in the breach. That this particular document in the past has not been prepared. And no minister of the House has been sanctioned by the Speaker for not bringing this. But let us say that these budgets, as we well know, the pre-oil budgets, as we well know, were small. It is no basis anyhow for breaking the existing law. But they were small budgets, right? 100 billion here, 200 billion there, 300 billion there. Post-oil budgets, they're to hundreds of billions and now trillions of dollars. So, where before such a legal requirement was being observed in the breach, no more should it be. No more should it be. And this particular document becomes even more important for understanding of the MPs and the public as to why these persistent requests for supplementary and why they could not have been considered at the time the budget was being prepared. Let's look at the 2026 supplementary paper that is before the Parliament currently. There is a request for new monies for the gas to power project. Get this. They told us that gas to power project should have finished in 2024. They then revised the date to 2025. In 2025, they convinced us that gas to shore project will be finalized and finished by mid of 2026. Mid of 2026. Now, if they are telling us this, shouldn't we as the public understand that this project then, that you will budget to close this project in 2026? Won't you understand that all the commitments and so forth for this project will be budgeted for so that it can be closed in 2026? The person will do. That was what any government will do. But get this. The 2026 budget voted set aside $10.7 billion for this gas to power project. $10.7 billion. Now, in this supplementary paper that is before the National Assembly, the government is requesting an additional $19.1 billion. Tell me how you could make sense out of this. The government told us that this project will close in 2026. And as a result, they budgeted $10.7 billion to meet all the requirements and outstanding bills and whatever. But a few months after the budget was presented, right, because the budget was approved February 14th, they brought this paper somewhere around June the 14th, thereabout. So that will make that what? March, April, May, June. About 4 months afterwards. 4 months afterwards, the government is coming $19.1 billion. And from all indications, the project will not be ready in 2026. Shouldn't we as a people be concerned about this? And if the government is asking for an additional $19.1 billion, which represents 178.5% of the budgeted amount, shouldn't we also ask where the government be financing this amount? Indeed, for all the other requests. From where? Because, remember, the budget wasn't fully financed from the government resources. After adjusting for taxes that the government expects and other revenues that the government expects to collect, after adjusting from the amount that they're going to be hauling out of the natural resource fund, 90% of whatever's in the natural resource fund, after adjusting from what they're getting for the low carbon development credits, right, that they're selling, after adjusting for all of that, a massive hole is still in the budget. And that has to be covered from borrowing from international agencies, borrowing from international governments like the United States and like China, and them, Britain, Canada, wherever giving them money, they're borrowing from. But more concerning, borrowing locally. Borrowing locally. And the only borrowing they do via is through treasury bills. So the budget had a hole. Now you're coming for $54.9 billion more. Who is financing this? Or from where you're getting this financing? But that is why that particular document that the Fiscal Management Accountability Act talks about, that you have to provide reasons for the proposed variations, the document describing the impact of such variations on the financial plan in the annual budget. That is why that document has to be accompanying any requests. But the document before the Parliament, you know what it has? You know what it has for the reason for this request? I kid you not, that accelerates the rear coming to an amount of $19.1 billion. Reason? Provision of additional resources to accelerate work program. But hold on a minute. Wasn't this gas to power project expected to finish in 2026? Wasn't this gas to power project as a result going to take $10.7 billion as budgeted to finish it? No, you're talking about accelerated work program. Now wait a minute again. Accelerated to when? This is July. This is July. July is halfway there already. By the time this amount is budgeted, debated, and made available, you will have roughly less than 5 months in the year that is left. So what is the accelerated work program that they're talking about? Because you said the project was to finish in 2026 anyhow. Where is the accelerated work program? Where is the document showing this accelerated work program? And how is the Parliament going to sit down there, especially the opposition people, going to sit down there and approve this amount? Because you can show your disapproval by voting it down. Even though it will pass because the government got a 36, you can show your disapproval by voting it down. How can you vote yes for $19.1 billion when all you are being provided with is provision of additional resources to accelerate work program? What is this work program? What is this work program? What acceleration are we talking about? Because you had said this thing by mid-year, it will finish by mid-year 2026, mid-year gone. So what is the accelerated work program we're talking about here? As far as we know, the members of the Parliament, especially the opposition members, have never been taken on a tour of the site. Never. So they don't have an official understanding of where this project is. All they have are for them what has been or so on. The workers' grievance never come out organize a tour of the facility by members of the opposition and the government. The government has never put in parliament documents to the progress of this project. All you hear is a DPI thing. More containers arrive with equipment for gas to power, as if that is progress. Or something showing you a barge carrying some big container. Or some police outrider, directing traffic, so some large piece of equipment supposedly. That is not progress. That is not progress. There's no quarterly briefing by the project office to the public. So what is this accelerated work program that we speak about? What? But yet you expect the opposition MPs to go there and rubber stamp 19.1 billion. Okay, let us say that they made a mistake. We used to call it beefsteak because it's too big for a mistake. You put $10.7 billion budgeted, but you're asking for another 19.2. That's a beefsteak, we used to call it. Tell us whether this is the final amount for this year to close this project. Tell us. Or are you going to be coming back for more monies? When will this end? That is where you're going to have problems with this and every paper that comes without the signaling the state of these projects, why they were under budgeted, why you're asking for more money. Is this the last amount that you're going to be asking for? No, because based on what we see here, several more papers will be coming for the end before the end of the year, which these same areas that have already been given supplementary are getting even more supplementary. And the government is not being called out for one, the abuse of the resources, the misuse of the resources, the misallocation of the resources, and the lack of accountability for these resources. The relevant agencies, in particular, this concerned with this state of play. Again, these so-called autonomous institutions will make Whip Van Winkle awake from his slumber and refuse to go back to sleep. Because these institutions that are supposed to be the guardrails, unlike institutions that are supposed to be the guardrails, are, imagine, epithets like toothless are being ascribed to them. The guardrails, especially in a multiracial society that are expected to function at maximum efficiency, are today being labeled toothless. Does the Auditor General Office have to wait some post something to figure out, because all supplementary papers are sent to the Auditor General's office as a requirement. They are sent there. So when they get it, what do? They file it away. Nobody can stop the Auditor General office from making comments. That is why they are mentioned in the Constitution as an independent agency. Nobody can fire the Auditor General unless for cause. And yes, they hung it out. Anand, after he attempted to do his work with Dolphin Gate and so on, they hung him out. Has the staff, but it's very difficult to remove a judge. But yet, the guardrail called the Auditor General office sees stuff like this and doesn't make a single comment on it. $19.1 billion you're asking for. We don't know what you're going to do with it, because you say it's to accelerate work program. We don't even know your work program. The $10.7 billion was approved without a work program presented to the parliament. So how do we accept? What is the benchmark for accepting accelerated work program? Which areas will be accelerated? Are we going to get more of these containers? Are you going to be working 3 shifts? And so something that was scheduled to come to finish June was finished in May, or something that was scheduled to finish in September will now finish in August or something? What is this work program that you're accelerating? Like I said, we have never seen the work program from since this project started. So we don't know what is going to be accelerated. This gas to power project is fast turning out to be our biggest financial nightmare. When we thought that the Skeldon was it, this gas to power project dwarfs Skeldon by many hundreds of percentage. Skeldon was 200 million US dollars. The gas to power is anywhere upwards of 2.5 to 3 billion. A project that was originally meant to cost under $1 billion. Yet, the public, the people of this country, don't know how this money was spent, haven't seen a single document for any component of this project. Even the pipeline that has been laid and laid up since 2024. Exxon can't tell us how much this pipeline. You know, Exxon is fast becoming to be a nuisance in this country. I've seen today's paper where CJID I've Village Voice of all kinds of stories. Becoming a problem in this country. Imagine Exxon is trying to tell us. They can't tell you after 2 years of this pipeline, nearly 2 years of this pipeline being laid up since December 2024. They can't tell you how much is so important, because Exxon is taking out the cost of this pipeline from our money that is due to us. And you're telling me the parliament of this country, the Auditor General of this country, is not concerned about what is the cost of this pipeline? How much did this pipeline cost? Why is it a top secret? Because after all, it's the government of Guyana, it's the people's money that is being used to pay for this pipeline, for which Exxon has already started recovering the costs. And we don't know. They had many press conferences so far and tell us, they can't tell us what is the cost of this pipeline. But here, they're right. They don't have, the Guyanese people aren't there, aren't the people that they report to. They report to set of shareholders that are not in Guyana. They're in the United States. Those shareholders, our shareholders, our chairman of the shareholders are the people, the chairman is the president, can't tell us how much this pipeline cost us. And we, the people, seem to be powerless to get the president, to get Brassington, to get Parliament, to tell we, the people, how much this pipeline cost us. Because it is coming out of our money. Have the secret. In a big ocean called the Atlantic that washes our shore, there's a bubbling. There is a bubbling right where the pipeline runs. On closer examination, it looks like there's a leak in the pipeline. This has been disclosed by Azzuddin Mohammed. Reaction of the government? No, there's no leak. Then soon thereafter, agencies, MARAD and the EPA, says it was an anomaly. Y'all know it was an anomaly? Ultimately, there's a leak. And this leak apparently was there 3 months before it was first discovered by Azzuddin or whoever. And that they were trying to repair this leak. This leak apparently in the pipeline occurred in shallow waters. And according to Vincent Adams, an expert in this area, woe be unto us if this leak occurs again now in deeper waters, when gas as opposed to nitrogen is being pumped into the pipeline. Woe be unto us. We have wasted so much money on this project. So much money. We are a captured people. We can't say anything because we are afraid. We can't say anything because we're going to lose. We can't say anything because the institutions in the country, all them cameras you see and so on, they got wrong, you're being watched. All them technology that they've been able to acquire, you're being watched. You're being watched through your television. You're being watched on your phone. You're being watched the regular old-fashioned, where somebody or something of this art. So we are fast becoming a country like North Korea, where from the time you wake up in the morning, the government knows your activities. And we, for the most part, we accept and bless and move on as if that is enough to change the status quo. So every week I come and I complain about the NIS. Every week, I'm willing to be part of that group or anything who thinks that another alternative can. But nobody, everybody meets you and asks you, good work you're doing, Mr. Jordan. Keep pressure on them. But what you're doing is all of us are in this 7 years at a time when you have tremendous money in this country. 7 years we are without an increase in NIS, but nobody wants to do anything about it. 7 years. And all things. A next item on the supplementary paper is NDIA. That is the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority. They are a perennial presence on supplementary papers. Perennial presence. It's like if you budget $100 billion for them, 2 months afterward, you're going to see a supplementary paper with NDIA on it again. You don't know where these monies are going. But they're spending. And there's a softness for drainage and irrigation. So the interrogation of this agency, the robust interrogation, never takes place. And the opposition is as guilty as the government in their softly approach to this particular agency. Sea defense and drainage irrigation are two areas that get support regardless of the requests that come. But that is not the idea. The idea is to ensure that money is being requested, whether by the regular budget or otherwise, are going to be spent on priority areas, are going to be spent in an efficient and accountable manner. There is an Auditor General report that speaks ill of the spending of the NDIA. But notwithstanding, you got an NDIA that has got $16 billion in the budget, but now 3 months afterwards is asking for another $4.5 billion. That's 28% of the budget within 3 months. So here's the question. Has the NDIA spent the entire $16 billion at the time the request has been made? Have they spent that $16 billion? Requiring them to make an additional request of $4.5 billion 3 months afterwards? I doubt it. I know it ain't happen. So why are they coming for $4.5 billion more? Why? At a time when they can't even spend that $16 billion for the entire year. I say so. Because by the time you go out to tender and contracts, mobilization, and all this kind of thing, they can't spend the 16, but they're coming for another $4.5 billion. And here, what is the reasons why they are coming for it? Ring that bell. Yes, here's the reason. Provision of additional resources to accelerate work program. Provision of additional resources to accelerate. Does it sound familiar? It was the same reasoning given for the gas to power. But the NDIA never attached to this request a work program. They never attached to the budget a work program that Parliament is aware of. Never. What is this work program? But they get away with this. They get away with this. Another entity is the Guyana Rice Development Board. Well, I'd skip them because they want my discussion wasting my time this morning. Of course, our friends are back in town. Well, they never left. Gaisuko, Guyana Sugar Corporations, Gaisuko. Our friends are back in town. This corporation that had an additional $16 billion budgeted for it in this year's budget is asking for another $3 billion. Nearly 19% of the budgeted amount. And you guessed it again. In fact, guess it for all of them. The reason why they're requesting it is provision of additional resources to accelerate work program. For the additional in the 2026 budget. That is how the government, that's what the government thinks of us as the public. It is what the government thinks of the parliament. And definitely, it is what the government thinks of the opposition, if they're thinking at all. Because more than half of that opposition, they think it's irrelevant anyhow. Right? They're not dealing with wind. Unless the APNU thinks that they are now in the driving seat and so on, the government ain't got no use for you. They will tolerate you, but they treat you, I mean, a bit better than they will treat wind. This paper that should have been an outrage for me and for the reason for this coming back has not awoken any outrage in anybody. Certainly not the opposition. Everybody is afraid. Gaisuko, no, boy, we don't want to say too much on them because you know how they're going to say they're going to label me racist. You remember what they do to the coalition government, right? They successfully labeled the coalition government as racist for rearranging and reorganizing the Gaisuko. So we don't want to do that. So we ain't going to say nothing. But your own supporters, the ones who went to you, who can't get an increase in NIS, them old people like me, because the government is using the money that should go to these NIS people and so on to prop up Gaisuko, to prop up Guyana Rice Development Board, to prop up Guyana Power and Light, to prop up Transport and Harbors Department, to prop up Guyana Water Inc. All of these institutions are being propped up by the government, thus denying funds that clearly are available to pay the old people. The next supplementary paper that's going to come after the Parliament recess in October is going to have Gaisuko on it again. And you're going to hear the same thing to accelerate work program. Only the good Lord knows what work program we're talking about in Gaisuko. Because this work program, whatever it is resulting in a backward movement in Gaisuko. Between 2015 and 2019, the very coalition government that they accuse, that the PPP accused successfully, but wrongfully, of abandoning Gaisuko and all this kind of story, we transferred $1 billion in that short space of time. Unless you think 2015 to 2019 represent 5 years, no, it's not. It's not, because don't forget we came in May. $60 billion. Now, to a corporation that is supposed to transfer monies to the treasury via taxes, via dividends, via special transfers. Instead, this is a corporation that has taken and taken and taken and taken and taken and continues to take. But our people are afraid to talk. They're afraid to talk lest they be labeled racist. They're afraid to talk. Meanwhile, the corporation bleeds and it continues to get blood infusion, cash infusion from a treasury that is swimming in money. Since the government has come back in August 2020, the government has transferred 80 billion between 2020 and 2026, including the budgeted amount for 2026, but excluding the 3 billion that they're asking for now. With that 3 billion, it will be 83 billion and counting. And counting. And counting. But here, look at the dismal record of Gaisuku. In 2020, when we left, Gaisuku produced 88,868 tons of sugar. 88,868 tons. In 2021, they produced 58,025 tons. In 2022, 47,049 tons. In 2023, 60,207 tons. In 2024, 47,109 tons. In 2025, 59,600 tons. And in 2026, for the first 5 months of the year, they have produced so far 19,031 tons. 19,031 tons, which is 10,345 tons below the target of 29,376. So you have a pattern of contraction in this Gaisuku that is bleeding money from the treasury. Fourth, in none of the years subsequent to 2020 has Gaisuko been able to come anywhere the achievement in 2020 under the coalition government. 88,868 tons. And Gaisuko has not been able to come anywhere near any one of the production achievements under the coalition. How much can you say about the coalition wanting to strangle Gaisuko and so on? Yet, the people who love them and giving them money like if there's no tomorrow, they can't respond. Gaisuko has become too big to fail. They are a moral hazard. They don't have an incentive to perform. They're not a private sector where they have sunk their own monies or shareholders' monies. They're government. And there are no penalties for not performing. They're moral hazard. I say so. You have a period of continuous contraction post 2020, notwithstanding even more monies injected into Gaisuku than was injected under the coalition government. There's an inverse relationship then between monies injected and output performance of the industry. But I said, they don't want to say anything because they are afraid. They are afraid of being labeled racist. And the paper continues again. Housing. Housing is on the paper. They had, at the budget time, 150 billion. Boy, that is money. Imagine 150 billion for one department, housing. Housing is a department, they're not a ministry. They're a department. There's a ministry covering a department, but there's a department called Central Housing and Planning Authority. They get the money. The ministry is just a waste. It's just to pay permanent secretary and ministers and all them kind of thing money. But it's really Central Housing and Planning Department. They got 150 billion. Do you know 150 billion dollars? Right? Prior to our 20. In other words, then 150 billion dollars could be more than 50% of many of the budgets we produce under the coalition entirely. Entirely. More than 50% for the entire national budget that we were able to produce under the coalition government. More than 50%. In fact, we only started getting 300 plus billion dollar budgets in the coalition government, I think around 2019 or thereabout. All the rest of the time is 200 something billion dollars. But here you have a department, one department had a budget of $150 billion in the 2026 budget. $150 billion for housing. And 3 months afterwards, coming back for another $17.5 billion. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. $17.5 billion. But you continue to get thousands upon thousands upon thousands of backlog. You know why? Because housing is not into housing. Housing is not into housing. Housing is into construction. That's where the money is. You diaspora people may not know, and many Guyanese may not know, but it is the housing ministry that was responsible for building Heroes Highway, not the Ministry of Public Works. It is the housing ministry. And they are responsible for building the extension of Heroes Highway that is going all the way now to Coverdale. They are responsible for building the highway from the bridge across the Demerara River going towards Parica. Housing is not into housing. Housing is into road construction. And you, if you got any sense and do a little bit of research, will understand who controls housing then and now, and why this massive construction of highways is being put under housing and not public works, where the skill set houses, no pun intended. Housing, 30,000 backlog, but they're more interested in building highways. And where these highways pass is not going to house on either side the average poor man Guyanese. Those lands are gone well before the highway is built. And you could see the proliferation of businesses that are springing up alongside these highways. But it's Ministry of Housing. The Ministry of Housing is not the Ministry of Trade and Industry. It is the Ministry of Housing who is building these highways. They're not building houses, they're building highways. Construction, that's where the money is. So they're coming back now for another $17.5 billion. Not to build houses, to build more highways. You can imagine if $150 billion was available for housing, including putting in the necessary infrastructure, like what was done under the Burnham government for places like South Rhine Belt, North Belt, Festival City, Guy Hawk, Tuckville, you name it, Amelia's Ward, Tuckbar in Barbies, you name it. When house flats were given back in those days, house flats, they were well laid out places and spaces for churches, markets, playgrounds, religious, and all these kinds of story. How do you think they could have built the Heroes Highway? Because that space here in South Rhine Belt had been left there since the 1960s. When that whole area there was left, because the vision was there to build an alternative highway to the East Bank Demerara, right through those cane fields and so on. Success PNC never allowed anybody to build on that space. That's how when they came in, they were able to now have that easy access straight through. It was well laid out. Well laid out. And you see now these days they're building mall, what do they call it? Massy Mall and Giftland and all this kind of thing. Long before they had that, South Rhine Belt had the first mall. Shopping Plaza, we call it. They had the first mall there. The idea was there before its time. Continental built the first mall in this country here, there. Real shopping mall. But unfortunately, it was built at a time when it was too ahead of its time, so to speak. Way too ahead. And the concept was alien to Guyana. And so it never survived. And eventually Continental turned that mall into a housing apartments. Sherrod says he grew up in South. He grew up right there in that shopping plaza area there. And ultimately became the councillor at the main city council for this area. Housing is not into housing because $150 billion voted every year for the last 5 years could have significantly reduced the backlog. And by the way, while I'm housing, I see the toy now with what they call prefab houses. You know, these jokers. Yeah, that is what they are. Jokers. If they will stop tormenting Barnum in his death and acknowledge his wisdom, his policies, his programs, and bless up, they're stealing the man's ideas every day and repackaging it as something new. Guyana Timbers right there in Houston used to make prefab houses. And I love to say, I live in South Rhineville Gardens in a prefab house. Up to this day, I'm living in a prefab house. And it survived all them earthquake shakes and all this kind of story. Prefab house is known to this country. That is how they were able to accelerate the housing program in this country, by building prefab houses. We used to export prefab houses to Trinidad, I think, at least, and Barbados. Prefab houses. Now I see there, I think I saw on Gordon Mosley's page, housing thinging with prefab houses. Prefab houses? That was known since the 60s and 70s, because this house we're living in here, I think, was built in the late 60s or early 70s. That was Barnum for you. And most of the materials for building these houses came from Guyana. Whether it's from the clay brick, right down to the wood, and not wet wood and sap wood, because you had kilns to dry the wood. You had kilns to dry the wood. And that is why these woods lasted all through, especially in places like South Rhineville, where you got wood ants and all the moisture from the cane growing and so on. Now you got large expense and overnight entrepreneurs and overnight people, bags and bags of cement houses that you got to get AC. But the wood houses adorned this entire country because the wood was properly dried to the various kilns that we had. We had a major kiln at Demerara Woods, at Mabura there, where the first phase of the road is extending. Demerara Woods Limited. They had a kiln there that was financed by under the EEC regional program that they had to dry wood. Not the sap wood what they're selling you now. And for a country with so much forest, we were refusing to use our woods. We're being exporting, we chopping down to make house, or to mine for gold, or all these kinds of story. But yet when you go overseas, you find wood and quality woods and exotic woods that are being used for all kinds of things. But in right here where we got 7/8 forests, we import tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of cement. Costly foreign currency. And we're digging out so much sand that we may very well have a problem soon to build concrete buildings and concrete houses when we have so much forests. And all we need to do is buy some kilns and dry that wood and bring back confidence in building with wood. No. Pine wood out of Canada. Pine out of Canada. We want that. And something that look like wood, but more susceptible to fire, to causing fire. That's what we want to put, because somebody making money. Housing is building roads. They're not building houses. And there are two more items on that paper. Ain't worth my trouble. Beyond saying that there are rental of buildings for Ministry of Health. Right? Can you imagine this? The budget for that item is $406 million. They're now requesting 3 months after a supplementary of $338 million. I don't make up these stories. It's right there. I don't make it up. You budgeted $406 million. It was approved February the 14th. 3 months after, you coming back for almost 100% in a thing like rental of buildings. You are telling me at the time of the budget, you don't know how many buildings you will rent? And for what purpose? Oh, I forget. The purpose is provision of additional resources to accelerate work program. I don't make up these stories. I'm sure by the time they bring it to Parliament, that we will come back again to this subject. But I hope that I have awakened the opposition MPs. Those are the ones I'm concerned about. Not interested in government MPs. Because they themselves not interested in themselves. They sit there and they will shout and they stomp and so on. But they will never be given the opportunity to speak. They are robots. But the ones who are given the opportunity to speak and ask questions should do so in a robust manner. The questioning is too friendly, it's too backslapping, and so on. And like I said, just like this president's bill, just like what I have put out here in the open, if there are more collaboration among the opposition, such knowledge, such information can be brought out to the public. But some of them holding something to the chest to bring out in Parliament, where they only got 15 minutes and subjected to a speaker who don't think a hair's breadth in cutting them out and cutting them short. Who got a clock that is tick so fast that the minutes seem to be ticking faster than the seconds. Before you know it, your 5 minutes of fame done. But out here, where the people are starved for information, yes, they got issues like cost of living and all them kind of thing, but they're starved for information. You're not out here telling them all of this that is going on here and why they're not being given a better salary or so on. That is where the money is being wasted. That is where you're not calling out all them so-called independent institutions. But anyway, look. The other subject I want to talk about today, you know, it is that time of the year when you have graduations, a lot of graduations in the United States in particular, when schools are out, and when in some cases, some exams, results are expected. And a couple of days ago, we got one set of those results from the common entrance. Pretty soon, we will get another set of results from the CXC and the Cape. But let us speak in the present. So we learned that 15,907 students wrote the common entrance exams. And out of that 15,907 students, 169 made it to QC, which the government persists in making the object of the exams. You don't hear anything else. All you heard is that that number of 15,907, they wrote the exams. Story done. Of them 15,907, 169 make it to QC. And about 1,000 or less made it to the other four so-called big schools or top schools. Because in the eyes of the very government that talks about making other schools equal, it persists in the narrative of the top schools. And all these so-called top schools exist only in the Georgetown district. QC, Bishops, Saints, Roses, Josephs. If you make it there, then you make it. That is what the government insists on portraying. Not all this thing about crying and thing and so on. Every picture that you have seen in the papers is somebody who has made it to QC. Not even to bishops. Not even to bishops. And these are pictures being carried by the government and the government website. Now, can you imagine? Anna Regina has performed consistently well over the last decade or more. You want top schools? That is a top school, but they don't make it in the five. Anna Regina has performed consistently better than St. Joseph's and them schools. But they don't make it in the top five because the government insists on this foolishness. Insist on it. And you don't get a proper analysis of these results. You get this trumped up thing. Trumped up thing. But when you look at the distribution, as I recall, I may slightly be wrong, but no student, I believe, from regions 1, 7, 8, or 9, I may be wrong, has made it to the top 169 that they keep putting out there as they want to put out. The top 169. None. Is that a problem? Yes, it is. Now, I suppose if a student from, say, region 8 got the marks and were to go to QC, they wouldn't make it. Because then they were required to come down, go to the hinterland place where they have there, and, you know, come in all that stress and so on, saying that they're going to QC. But I continue to say, and I will say it all the time, writing these exams is not about getting to QC, getting to bishops, and so on. If we must continue with exams of this nature, and by the way, I saw an impassioned plea by Darren Wade on his Facebook to scrap these exams. And his plea was to such an extent, he's so bothered by these exams that he said at one time he was thinking about bringing a lawsuit, a constitutional lawsuit, to ban these exams. I understand where Darren is coming from, but I will caution him about throwing the baby out with the bath water. Because, have you noticed something? All the friends, family, and favorites of the PPP go to the top schools. Isn't that an incredible statistic? So even while you're having exams, these children are so amazingly bright. Their common denominator is that they are the children of the families, friends, and favorites of the PPP. All others, if you made it on your full strength. And there are many others who made it, but didn't make it because they had to make way for the friends and family and favorites of the PPP. And this is where you have an exam. When you throw out the exam, what is your alternative for placement? What will be your alternative in the immediacy of throwing out the exam? So one has to be very careful in what you hope for. I agree that at this tender age, the roughness of this exam, and it's really rough indeed, because I happen to tutor a grade 4 that is going to 5 and a grade 5 that is going into grade 6. And the pressure that they are under, pressure. The competition to get into this so-called top primary, private, and secondary schools. The rush to see how many places X private school got, Y private school got. The demise of schools like St. Margaret's, St. Angela's, Stella Maris. Those were the top schools back in the days. No longer do you hear about them. And the crushing fees to be paid to these private institutes. Do you know that it costs you more per term in fees at some private primary schools that it costs you at the time at UG when you had to pay? Do you know that? Many of you know that. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. It is obvious that the whole concept of education, especially at that level, has to change. We are condemning thousands upon thousands of our young kids to a life that they should not be experiencing at that level, condemning them every year. And with these half-hearted programs that a government with trillions of dollars spend. I give a typical example. The St. George's School that they just brought out. I thought it was a great idea. And all the equipment and so on they got in there. Why wasn't there mention of St. George's School when the results came out? Of people who qualified for this St. George's School? No. It's back to the QC and so on. Nothing, you look, it's nothing against this, but you have to have a system. If you're going to build an egalitarian system, you have to have one where people don't feel that they are a failure if they didn't make Queen's College. You can't continue this nonsense at the level of the government. You continue it and you continue forcing parents to have to fork out hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars over a 6-year cycle so that their children will get to the best schools. But haven't you been putting in critical infrastructure in schools like East Rhineville, North Rhineville, Charlestown, you know, all these different schools? What are you doing those for? And now that you've put them in, where are the teachers? Where are the teachers? Buildings without teachers is like a house without foundation. Where are the teachers? QC staffed with everything that they got. Bishop staffed with everything they got. But where are the teachers for the rest of the schools? Where? That is why the crush continues to be QC and all this kind of thing. And notwithstanding the fact that you're putting these fancy things, fancy labs in AutoCAD and all kind of things in these other schools that people still don't want to go to them. They ain't got nobody to teach them. So you're concentrating on cutting ribbons for annexes of buildings and all these kinds of stories. And then what? No teachers. You still got issues with the Ghana Teachers Union. You're refusing to pay the Ghana Teachers Union under the collective bargaining agreement, under court ordered. You're refusing to do that. Teachers are leaving in droves. You do nothing about it. You're hoping to bring in teachers alien to this country, alien to this country, alien to the culture of this country. And you're graduating teachers, several of whom shouldn't be in the teaching profession. Some of them with questionable passes. And it's reflected in their classroom. I have the experience of examining some of the books of some of these students and so on. And you will see books are available now, textbooks are available. When you check their exercise books, they're not much work done. They're not much work done. I don't know, I'm not going to be blaming this point, but that there's not that much work done. And while a lot of praise is going on for QC and so on, you check and see who are the real winners of this. The people who host private lessons. I used to send my son, both of them, to a private school. Millions of dollars. And every one of them, before they wrote CXC, went to lessons, whether it's chemistry, physics, bio, maths, Spanish, and they will meet up. Students from QC, bishops, you name it. You name it. But then the school gets the praise. While the lesson teacher quietly enjoying the holidays in Panama and so on, after your lesson fees. So this trauma, this annual trauma of common entrance and CXC, well, I'm not going to worry with CAPE, where you drive people to think that if they didn't get 5 CXC or more, that they are a failure. Do you know, And you could check this out. The person with 10 CXC is more frustrated than the person with 0 CXC. Why? The person with 0 CXC is more likely to get a job, or likely to get a job faster than the person with 10 CXC. And the person with 0 CXC is likely to get involved in a profession or a vocation for which the person with 10 CXC don't feel comfortable with, or don't think that they should go that direction because of their upbringing, family, friends, teachers, and so on. You think you could get somebody with 10 CXC to go into masonry, carpentry, auto mechanic? Because the school system and the family system says those professions continue to be only for them with 0 CXC, those for the school dropouts and so on. But those are the professions that got the money. Those are the professions that got the money. And since everybody got car now, everybody got car. Then the lawyer gonna be in trouble if the car can't get to the mechanic and the mechanic can't fix it. And she got to take whatever the mechanic asks for. But we're not going down that road. Yes, we trying to tell people, oh, BIT has overachieved its training program. Where are these people? Who are these people? What were their qualifications? How did they get onto the program? Those kinds of things we're not dealing with. Right? We're not dealing with them. And the education system continues to talk it, but don't want to walk it. Barnum, in his assessment of education, had QC doing agricultural science. QC had a farm, a little garden at the back there. Saints had a farm and gardening and so on. Where are those things today? I don't even see agricultural science featuring anymore on curricula of schools. The multilateral schools, the best ever built in this country. Look at their curriculum. Look at and look when they were built in the 70s. Look at the forward thinking. Look at the forward thinking. Meanwhile, every conceivable and available space in schools that was used for playing batting ball and football and netball and so on, they're now being used up in building annexes. The latest one now is St. Joseph's. They're being used to build annexes. Oh, the joy of Friday afternoon. Put on your Peter, the girls playing netball and rounders, and and the boys playing the cricket and the little football and the table tennis and so on. Oh, the joy of those days, gone. Everybody know book. And still what? You get in these dismal passes in critical subject areas like maths and so on. You get in large dropouts from schools. You get in a situation so unbearable now that children can't even go to schools. You're seeing them all over the roads in dirty condition. You're seeing them being hidden by some vendor when somebody looks like they're a school official because the child not going to school. All of these things so that they can crow every once a year about somebody getting 20 people getting perfect scores. I wanted to deal with that, but my time ran out. But next time around, I'm going to continue on this education aspect because I got a lot more to say. A lot more to say. Who would believe with the kind of money available to the Ministry of Education, we're still having 15,907 children right in a common entrance, and you're talking about 169 who make it to QC. But Kedaki, I think my time run out. I would not be on next week. I am scheduled to attend a very happy event. I will tell you about it after I get back. So my next time around will be roughly the 30th of July. Until then, everybody remain safe and talk to you. Bye. Yeah, Kiraki. No, I end. Mhm. Yes, gone. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, as they say, anything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible moment. I just stepped away, and there it is. Mr. Jordan left us. Nevertheless, thank you, Mr. Jordan, for your presentation this morning. On point as usual, troubling as usual for those who are in the seat of government and doing nonsense. And I'm sure our viewers will take away a lot from it. And viewers, thank you for tuning in. I sincerely hope that you will continue to
pay attention to these programs. I encourage you to all check out the publication of Coastlander. I encourage you to check out the publication of Coastlander. I don't know how many of you have checked Coastlander, but I think it's a good place to get good information, and information that you can peruse over a period of time, information that you can always go back to and quote your facts from. Right, the Coastlander is a publication of, let's say, Camps TV for now. It's a publication of Camps TV, and it addresses a lot of pertinent issues. So be sure to check it out. I just post the link on the live there. Tomorrow I'm going to continue to rant, if some people call it ranting, about what transpired turning event for the new for the construction of new Buxton market. Good. We'll continue to talk about that. In the meantime, between time, you have a great day. We shall talk.